Hi Peaches, it's Shaaba, welcome back and thank you for clicking on today's episode. I hope you're doing well. I personally am doing pretty damn good. I've been hustling very hard. I am severely in need of a nap from no work-life balance, and is it just me or are there sharks surfing around the screen? A big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. For those of you who don't know, Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network with over 3,000 servers located in over 100 different countries. And why they're there? To keep you safe by doing all of these things, including masking your IP address and blocking malware and ads. And Surfshark also helps you by unlocking these gorgeous things with a virtual location. And that includes content libraries from all around the world so you can watch your favorite shows no matter where you are. Shows like E.T. Do you know the plot of that one? Doesn't matter. Sit back, let me recap it for you. One day, this cute alien family decide to have a little vacay here on Earth, but they're scared away by government officials. And in their retreat, they leave behind one tiny little squish, and that is E.T. This little boy called Elliot finds E.T. and encourages him back to his house with Reese's Pieces, a great and sensible decision. They are absolutely delicious. The two boys bond, but E.T. misses his family and he wants to call home. Alas, sadly he could not because the government officials had hacked into his phone and were monitoring his every move. Bad actors can do that, you know, including to your search history. I'm not judging, but they might. Elliot, however, was like, E.T., babe, don't need to stress. You just need Surfshark VPN. It swaps the real life location of your devices with another one around the world, encrypting your data and keeping you safe from all those phishing and scamming attempts. Surfshark can also bypass sensitive sites and get you better deals with your online shopping. And so the story goes, E.T. did indeed phone home and commuted back to them on a pogo stick? Yeah, pretty sure it was a pogo stick. At least that's how I think the movie goes. Or maybe it was a space hopper. Gosh, I cannot remember, but you can go and watch it for yourself, along with hundreds of other shows by unlocking content libraries worldwide and keeping safe with Surfshark. As you peaches know, I go on about it enough. I use Surfshark every day. I have done for years. It is on all of my devices. In an increasingly scary world, it's nice to feel safe and that little bit more in control. And one of my favorite features is the cookie pop-up blocker. You know those really annoying pop-ups that you get every single time you go onto a site where it's like asking you to accept the cookies or not? And if you do no, you have to spend so long working through all of their preferences. They make it so difficult. Well, guess what? Surfshark can remove those. And you and all of your other squishy little alien friends can have Surfshark on an unlimited number of devices. All you need to do is use this little QR code or go to surfshark.com/Shaaba to get an extra additional 4 months free. You go, E.T. You go. There is also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is no drama here at all. All of the details are downstairs in the description box for now. Should we get on with the show? I think we should. You're through to 1-800-DRAMA, the show where you share your biggest dilemmas and I help you navigate them. I'm Shaaba, and with your help,
and sometimes mine,
let's help people figure out if they are the drama, because sometimes you just need an outside perspective and we can all expand our own mindsets along the way. Are you ready to dive deep into the a-holes? Let's go. Am I the drama for refusing to stop using my embarrassing lunchbox at work? How embarrassing could it be? I have questions. Okay, I want to try and set the scale in my mind for what I would deem an embarrassing lunchbox before we get influenced by the post. Oh, I don't know why my head went there. It's so bad. My head went to those little pens that you can get where when you turn them around, the water does something and then you can like make the ladies topless. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. Crude. This is what I'm going for. It's crude things. That's my line of embarrassing. If you're bringing in unnecessary and just terrible politics. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna judge you. If I'm gonna judge you as a person based on what your lunchbox says, I'm gonna judge your lunchbox. There we go. That's my line. I am a 28-year-old man, says OP, and I bring my lunch to work every day in a bright blue Pokémon lunchbox. That is not where my head was going. That actually sounds very cute. I've had it for years and I don't think too much about it. It's just the perfect size. It keeps my food cold, and honestly, I think it's kind of fun. As if someone's gonna bully you as a 28-year-old for having a Pokémon lunchbox. How sad must your life be, right, for someone to feel that offended by a Pokemon lunchbox, to the fact that they have to say something that makes you feel like you could potentially be the drama in this situation? I pity that bully. Let's read on. Recently, says OP, a new co-worker, Matt, a 35-year-old man, started making comments about it. At first, it was just joking around, stuff like, nice lunchbox, dude, my kid has the same one. Well, you know what that means? That your kid is pretty freaking cool. Whatever, I laughed it off, but then he kept bringing it up, saying that it was, quote, unprofessional, and that I should, quote, quote, grow up and get a real lunch bag. Of course, that's right, because everybody knows that the container that you put your sandwich in at work directly correlates with how efficient you are at reaching your KPIs. Duh! The colour of your lunchbox and the number of cartoons adorned upon its beautiful face, of course, correlate with the company's bottom line. That's why in contracts, they say that you need to bring a specific lunchbox. My level of bullshit today is quite low, and Matt needs to pick up a hobby if this is what's really taking up a lot of attention in his mind. OP continues, I told him that I don't see the issue. It is literally just a lunchbox. But last week he took it further, telling me in front of our co-workers that it was, quote, weird for a grown man to be carrying around kids' stuff. I told him that he should worry less about my lunchbox and more about his own life, as you rightly should have done. I was just gonna say, I don't understand why people think that Pokémon is exclusively for kids, but I do get it. It's because they don't allow themselves to have any kind of fun in the world. And they're like, oh, well, if it's animated, it must be a kid's show. But then if you just have like an ounce of awareness, that entire argument unravels. And I'm not even talking about the fact that one of the most successful cartoons of all time, The Simpsons, is marketed at adults, right? 90% of the jokes in The Simpsons are so heavily politicized or so heavily adult culture based that kids don't understand. Shrek, one of the highest grossing animated movies of all time, has so many jokes in there that makes it an entirely different watch as an adult to as a child. That's not a movie made exclusively for kids. Do you know what I mean? Bob's Burgers, one of my favorite TV shows of all freaking time, is hardly made for kids. But that's not even what I'm talking about. That was just a huge digression showing how much I clearly like animated things. I will say though, I'm not biased in this way because I do not watch Pokemon. I was literally just talking to a friend who went to a Pokemon convention recently about how embarrassingly little I know about Pokemon lore. I didn't even know what to call the little things. Like, are they monsters? Are they creatures? I still don't know the answer to that question. My point being that I do not have a bias towards like, oh no, having to defend watching Pokemon as an adult. I'm so sorry though, I've entirely digressed. The point that I was trying to make was everybody who makes Pokemon, right, and continues to make Pokemon is the biggest fans of Pokemon, which is like a multi-million pound franchise because of its wonderful, huge community of not just children. It's made of really passionate adults. Like, I'm pretty sure, is it the CEO? Again, I don't know enough about Pokemon, but the guy who's like really high up and is the face of Pokemon was born in like the 50s. He's like really old now. He's definitely not a kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that adults don't make kid things. I'm just saying Pokemon is clearly not one of those things that's made for children. Matt, you got the wrong end of the stick. You're living a sad life if this is what you're going to bully someone at work because of. And I just hope you find something that makes you happy. And I think Opie was entirely correct and right in saying you need to worry less about my lunchbox, mate, and more about your own life. If this is what upsets you to the point where you have to bring it up this many times, it tells you a lot more about Matt than it does about OP, let me tell you. OP finishes by saying now he's been acting cold towards me, and a couple of co-workers have said that I was being too harsh and that he was just, quote, messing around. Look, it might be that the other co-workers didn't see how much he's been bullying you. That is what it is, how much he's been bullying you about this beforehand, because it seems like only this last time was in front of the other co-workers, and so I don't think it was really fair for someone else to say that. But we move, and Opie says, I don't see why I should change something harmless just because one guy finds it weird. So am I the drama? No, you are not the drama with a giant Charmander on top. Did I use that right? I'm trying to show respect to OP and be like, yes, yeah, with a little Pikachu on top. There you go. I know that's definitely a Pokemon. Look, long story short, you are so right. This is harmless fun, and you should not be having to change what you like because some boring, living in grayscale asshole is so stifled by social stigma that he's going to put his oppression onto you. If your little sandwich carrier looking like a Pokemon brings you that much joy, you use that sandwich carrier. It is with that exact same streak of expression and authenticity and freedom to like whatever the frick you want to like that I have pink hair, and that my plasters look like tiny little crayons, and that I have plushies of tiny chilies and little trolls on my shelves. You know what I mean? Like, just you do you, babe. You do what makes you happy and you everybody else. As long as you're not hurting anybody, including yourself, if something is bringing you joy in that way, you have every entitlement to experience that joy. And the people who don't understand that are not your kinds of people. I would be surprised if anybody here calls you the drama. He is a bully, and it bothers him that OP isn't bothered. This is very true. Hurt people hurt people. I want to know who stopped Matt, little baby Matt, going through his adolescent period from having what brought him joy. Who put that level of suppression on him? Who gave him that blue balloon? You know what he needs to do? He needs to listen to my song Weird, which is out, and it's literally about this exact same thing. And was that a shameless plug to remind you that Weird is where all music lives? Yes, it wasn't intentional, but I will own up to it being a thing that I took full advantage of. I cannot express how much I love the word wanker. It is just the perfect word for so many types of people, and I wish we used it here in the US. That is a privilege that I as a British person had no idea that I had, but there you go. Wanker is a beautiful word. Do you know what else is a beautiful word? Bollocks. And that wanker is talking a lot of bollocks right now, OP. Buy him one in red! Yes! Kill him with kindness. I love that so much. Fight his darkness with light. Allow him to bring that inner sense of freedom and joy. Maybe that's where it's coming from. Maybe he's like, you know what? I wish I had the confidence to have a Pokémon lunchbox, and he's just mad at you because he's jealous of you. And we can laugh, and Matt, even hearing something like that might be like, psh, but I bet you if Matt went to therapy, he would realize that the root of where his need to tell you that he is so offended by your Pokémon sandwich carrier, that need is coming from a place of not being able to express so freely himself. And you know what I'd say to you, Matt? Might not be your fault, but it's still your problem, and don't you be shoving your terrible opinions on other people. OP doesn't deserve it. Oh, this is so cute. Someone started a chain here and said, my large Viking-looking husband went shopping with me a couple of months ago and fell in love with a 3-foot stuffed cheetah. We call him Sad Cheetah because he has a very concerned expression on his face like this. Sad Cheetah lives on our sofa and my husband cuddles him when we're watching TV, and why the hell not? The best part about being an adult is having grown-up money and nobody telling you what you can and cannot spend it on. Say it again. Say it louder for the mats in the back. Despite a large number of people believing that I should make him stop spending so much money on Pokemon, that's not and will never be our vibe. And it saddens me that so many people seemingly want to squash the simple joys from people's lives, particularly those that they allegedly love. It is more about control than love, in my opinion. Oh my goodness, I relinquish my podcast chair to you comment because this is so beautifully and eloquently put. You are absolutely right. It is more about control than it is about love. I actually feel like it's more about fear than it is about love. It's about succumbing to control more than it is about love. Hence why my head then goes to not your fault but still your problem. What I really love about this comment is the gorgeous chain that it has precipitated. My mum bought me a fluffy owl when I was in my 50s because I'd admired it. He sits on our couch too. Someone else has said, I have a bright purple fluffy hippo rucksack that I use for camera bits, and I've had it for years now. I am 53 and I still use my South Park book bag from 26 years ago. Yes, reusing and recycling and having fun and being a little weirdo along the way. I love it. I am 62 and I still occasionally use my original metal Beatles yellow submarine lunchbox. I think that looks really freaking cool. Someone else says, I've got Pokemon tattoos and stickers on my and my husband's ladder. We work in trades and I saw a guy the other day with his water bottle covered in Mario stickers. Adult geeks are awesome. Could not agree with you more. Adult geeks are where it's at. Adult geeks and spookheads and LGBT plus people is like my safe space holy trinity. I'm so here for it. I feel like this thread has found my people, and if I may be so bold as to request Gorgeous Peach watching this video, if you have something that you would like to add to continue this thread on, let us know about it down in the YouTube comments. Let's start our own gorgeous thread and continue to spread the beautiful weird love. I was going to say that I could give you examples, but I've already given you loads. You know that I'm a weird little spookhead geek. And I also just wanted to take a moment to mention how iconic it is that you've got Mario stickers on somebody in the trade, because Mario is a plumber. And I just think that's really bloody beautiful. Meta. Oh, drama. Ooh, this next post is a cross post from a fellow Peach who has suggested, this isn't their submission, they cross posted it from Am I Overreacting, a different subreddit, one that I've never heard of before. But thank you, Gorgeous Peach, for sharing this, and anybody else, if you want to help other people who specifically ask these kinds of questions, Am I Overreacting is a wonderful forum for you. And if you like it, who knows, maybe we can do some more on this channel too. So Obi asks, Am I Overreacting? A GI nurse found my Instagram and emailed me. I don't know what GI means. I'm gonna have to look that up. I can certainly see different contexts in which different types of hospitals and clinics really should not be contacting you. Let's determine that first before we get too spicy. What is a GI nurse? GI Joe. What does GI Joe stand for? What does the GI in GI Joe stand for? Galvanized iron. Originally, GI stood for galvanized iron, the primary material used to make the military items like buckets. But as the military grew and evolved over time, it took on multiple meanings, including government issued. I'm digressing again. Thank you, ADHD. What is a GI nurse? A gastroenterology nurse. Ooh, tummies? Dummies? An experienced nurse who specializes in the care and support of people with disorders that affect the stomach and the gullet. This always happens to me. And then I end up going down a giant wormhole because I don't know what gullet means. What is a gullet? The gullet is the esophagus. Oh, it's part of the digestive system, which is sometimes called the gastrointestinal tract. Cool. So everything from here, anything that connects your mouth to your tummy, which means you could have been there for a range of reasons. And you know what? All of this was entirely unnecessary, except for the fact that every day is a school day. And I don't know, I just value this little pieces of information that I wouldn't have otherwise known. But the reality is a nurse should not be contacting you via Insta or otherwise, unless it's to do with your job. That's like a huge breach of data privacy. Let's read the post though. Wow. Oh, this isn't a post. This, you know, when they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, this is the actual email. I think this is going to tell us everything we need to know. Hello, I am sorry this is very direct. You're not sorry at all. I tried to follow you on IG. We met at in GI clinic. I regret that I didn't get your number or asked you out if you're single. P.S. I am clearly not desperate here. Lol. Yours, the guy who roomed you, sent from my iPhone. I don't know why I felt the need to read the sent from my iPhone out. The guy who roomed you? Okay, either it's really late, I'm really dumb, or my mind is really dirty. What does that mean? The guy who roomed you? My head is suggesting that it could mean multiple things. Did this person potentially do some form of internal scan? Is this area called a room? And is that what he's talking about? Or did he say, hello, patient of mine who has entered the clinic, this is your room, and therefore that process of being like, wait here for the doctor, is the person who does the rooming? Is that a medical phrase? Or is it the fact that this person also sat in the same room as you? Were you both there for GI issues? No, because he couldn't have been a patient because OP has said GI nurse. So what? Putting aside how confused I seem to be over the guy who roomed you, clearly this is not okay. This person has literally acknowledged in very satirical, sure, cringe maybe, but very clear terms that they are acting in a way that would be considered desperate. They have literally apologized. Do you know what I mean? If you're actually having to apologize, like genuinely apologize, you know that you're not doing the right thing, babe. You had a choice to not send this email. And what's worse is that you've said, I tried to follow you on Instagram. So I'm assuming this is your second attempt at trying to reach out to this person. You tried first on socials, the place where it is somebody's primary function to be social. That person did not. And now you have tried once more. Wood from the trees, babe. It's not a good look. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and like assess the situation. No, dear. No, you're not the drama. And I also don't think that you're overreacting. I mean, I don't know what you did, to be fair. You've just posted this. The way my face twisted into a look of pure disgust. I don't know what my face did. Maddie, wonderful editor of ours, if you wouldn't mind putting a screenshot of my face here. Did I have a face of disgust? Is that what is happening right here? If so, snap! Sounds desperate to me. And also cringe. You know, I'm pretty sure I use these exact words and I don't mean... See, this is actually cringe. Not bringing a Pokémon lunchbox into work, but doing something that just doesn't recognize the boundaries and the social etiquette of how we treat other people. Oh dear. If they are in Canada, that is actually illegal, says another commenter. I am a nurse, and unless there is written or verbal consent to contact you via your cell phone, this is a violation. And OP did respond, I am in Canada. No wonder I could never get in touch with my doctors. I mean, I'm glad that OP seems to be making light of the situation and hasn't been too affected by it. I also hope, OP, that your tummy's doing just fine. But yeah, this is totally not okay. This is totally not okay. Pretty sure he had to access your demographic info in order to have contacted you, which is super inappropriate and means that he could also have your address, date of birth, etc, etc. Look, this has a lot of assumptions tied to it. I'm not sure this is necessarily the case. I do think it's really important to look at things contextually, and just because somebody has reached out to you clearly trying to, you know, like try their luck does not mean that they're then going to come and visit your house. Or I don't know what damage you could do with the date of birth, but whatever that could be, but it isn't okay. I and other people that I know in significantly worse situations as well, like in some of the most sensitive contexts of clinics, have been reached out to as a total abuse of information that is not what you are getting that information for. And away from being, you know, just that tiny little niggle of being illegal, it's also just completely inappropriate. Like, I don't understand why some people feel like it's okay to use that information and also to genuinely believe that any good response could come out of it. Report him to the clinic. This is completely unacceptable, and if he's a licensed healthcare professional, he should lose his license. I feel like he should certainly be spoken to, and this issue should be explored in a greater depth. I'm not sure, like, just benefit the doubt. Truly, if someone didn't know that that was not acceptable, I maybe would allow someone a little bit of grace for the first time to be like, dude, this isn't how GDPR works. You need to respect the privacy and the reasons that people are allowing you to contact them for. And this context, so far away from what you're intended to do with the information that you have. And for that reason, I definitely feel like it's a really good idea to say something to the clinic. It's not shit stirring, it's not being a diva, it's just making sure that it doesn't happen again. Because in my mind, if someone's going to do this once to you, what's to stop them from doing it to so many other people and making a lot of other people also uncomfortable? By telling people that what they're doing is not okay, gives them the opportunity to grow. And if they don't listen to that opportunity to grow, then we take away their license. We laugh or else we cry. Oh, drama. Am I the drama? OP asks. My wife put down our dog without telling me whilst I was out of town. Oh my goodness, what is so bizarre is that we literally just explored something kind of similar to this in the last podcast episode. Ooh, this is a lot. This is extreme. Why would somebody do this? Let's see what OP has to say. My wife, a 36-year-old woman, and I, a 38-year-old man, says OP, have been married for 10 years and we have had Bella, our golden retriever, for 12 of them. Bella has been my rock. She's seen us through a lot. Moves, job changes, family issues, and I always felt like she was my companion as much as she was our family dog. That is beyond sweet. Sounds like you and Bella had such a sweet relationship. 12 years is no joke. That's a long time, especially after considering what we spoke about in last week's episode. Some people just don't seem to understand that, like, beings are beings even if they're not human. Why is that so difficult for some people to comprehend? I had to go on a work trip for about a week, and before I left, Bella was slowing down a bit, but she wasn't that bad. She was old, yes, but she was still getting around, and I asked my wife to keep an eye on her, and she agreed. Well, family dog, right? You've been married for 10 years. Wait, now I'm confused, because I've just read, but we had Bella for 12 of them. Oh, so you and your wife had been together before you were married. You got Bella together. It's your wife's dog also, so of course your wife would look after little Bella whilst you're away. I really hope this wasn't insidious. I think I'm already primed from our episode last week to think that it was. I have to say, Peaches, I should probably clarify that we have the 1-800-DRAMA subreddit, and for this episode, all of these posts are ones that Peaches have either submitted themselves or cross-posted to be like, hey, Shaabaandjamie, make sure you do these on the podcast. Totally fine, but this one's so sad. Oh my goodness. Fast forward to yesterday, says OP, I get home from the trip and the house is eerily quiet. No excited barking, no Bella waiting at the door. My wife comes out the kitchen and I immediately ask where Bella is. That's when she tells me that she took her to the vet and put her down. I didn't even know that Bella was that sick, and my wife made that decision without me. Grief is one thing, but closure is another, and wow, I'm really hoping, OP, that you're able to speak to the vet. I wasn't there to say goodbye, and I feel completely blindsided. I lost it and told her that she had no right to do that without telling me first. She got emotional and said that Bella was in pain and that the vet advised it, and she thought that she was sparing me from seeing Bella suffer. But I cannot believe that she didn't even call me. She knows how much Bella meant to me. Ooh, let's read to the end. Now I'm heartbroken and furious, says OP. I get that maybe it was the right decision, but it feels like I was robbed of my chance to say goodbye to my dog, my best friend. My wife has been crying and saying that she did it for Bella, but I can't shake the feeling that she's overstepped in a huge way. And just so we know, my wife has a habit of overreacting to things, and I'm afraid that she's done it this time as well. I've called the vet, but I haven't gotten a response yet. Am I the drama for being angry and thinking that she should have waited to at least talk to me first? Or am I being unreasonable? I need the update straight away. Straight away. 1 second, because that is so important for the context. Let's see if OP has said anything. Update! I talked to the vet. I don't know what to think anymore. The vet is obviously not going to say it was completely unnecessary, and I don't know how to process. I could really use some support here. I am so sorry, OP, that you are going through this. Let's try and unpack and at least help from a logistical point of view of the different options to move forward and how maybe these feelings could be the most healthily processed considering the context. I'm confused about this update. I talked to the vet and I don't want to know what to think anymore. The vet is obviously not going to say it was completely unnecessary. It sounds like what you're suggesting is the vet couldn't say it in so many words, but that the vet also has given some sort of implication that Bella didn't necessarily have to be put down. I'm so certain that the vet has suggested it was an option because they're not going to just put a pet down because somebody requests it. At least I think that's how vets work. I'm almost certain that that is not something that they would just do. Clearly Bella was in some kind of pain, but I think you're right in that saying saying it was completely unnecessary, is not something that they would do professionally, but also would do considering like, that's not useful information for you right now, babe. I'm sorry if that sounds wrong or weird to say. Not the good weird, the bad kind of weird. But my intention is saying that is having that information doesn't change what has happened or necessarily how you are able to process it, because a vet's opinion on whether it was the right thing or not to do could very easily be a subjective one. When it comes to things like this, it can be a really, really hard thing to navigate, and nobody quite knows what to do because we can't get informed consent, especially from our gorgeous little animal companions. I only have one experience myself to draw upon from, and this is Jamie's gorgeous family dog. Years ago, we came home and little Benji was not in a great way, and we took him to the vets, and they were like, guys, I think it's time. And even then, when it was absolutely the right thing to do, because Benji was in so much pain and he wasn't himself and he wasn't with it, it was not something that the vet was like, this has to happen, you are going to do this. Like, they can't do that. It still has to be your decision. And of course, it's going to be a really freaking hard thing to do, but that's what I'm saying. Because of that, I don't think hearing the vets give their opinion on that is going to be useful, considering the outcome that you are faced with. I hope that made sense. It made sense in my brain. I'm also, before we're looking at other people's comments, I also need to give a badge. I'm wanting to, I hate the phrase play devil's advocate because that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm wanting to highlight some reactions and feelings that your wife is giving. Your wife is crying. Your wife is saying that she did it for Bella, and she seems to be consistently emotional at this point. I don't know, maybe I'm being naive, but I feel like if someone is going to be this emotional and there's no reason as to why, you know, like, you've had this dog for such a long time, your wife's looked after her, and clearly Bella was some kind of not well, because you're saying things like, I didn't know she was that sick. She was old, yes, but she was still getting around, you know? She was slowing down, but she wasn't that bad. Clearly she, you know, there was something up. Like, it doesn't feel like it was totally out of the blue. And again, it's not something the vets would do. So if we entertain the idea that your wife didn't want to do this and genuinely felt that it was the right thing to do, even if it was an overreaction, my mind then has to go, okay, well, we need to unpack why she didn't tell you. And it could be that maybe the work trip that you were doing was really important, and maybe she didn't want you knowing to affect your work. Again, I'm not saying that it was the right thing to do. What I'm saying is I can absolutely see a world in which, in a really loving and healthy long-term relationship where you both really loved Bella, the grief of the situation and the blindsidingness of this situation can really hurt you to the point where you might not be looking at this objectively, and because your wife was able to be in those final moments in a way that you weren't, you may be, and again, not saying this is what you are doing, it's a possibility that you could be deflecting that kind of envy for those final moments that she was able to have that you weren't have into anger to the decision itself. So I really think that'd be an important thing to unpack and to just entertain in some kind of way, even if that's just having a conversation with her of, why didn't you tell me? Communication in these situations is always key. I do feel like it's such a big thing, right? It's gonna cause some level of resentment if you don't find that out and you don't get that level of closure. So I'd really encourage you to have a chat with your wife and understand from her why she didn't tell you. And I know that, you know, we've got this very top level of she was sparing me from seeing Bella suffer, but you said, you know, but why not a call? Why not something more? And it might be that you weren't able to ask these questions because you've just been hit with this really big news. And it could be that knowing this news, she wanted to be there for you when delivering that information, especially if it was something that in her mind she didn't feel could have waited. And therefore, because you were so far away, you know, you knowing wouldn't have changed the outcome of the situation and would have just made you even more sad at a time where it would have been probably quite inappropriate for you to be so. Again, not saying it's right that she did that. Obviously, if someone's grieving, grief is a really real thing. And personally, I would absolutely, I don't think I'd have been able to make that decision without the other person being there. If this were me and Jamie, for example, in that position, I wouldn't be able to do it alone. I'd have to call and say, hey, we really need to have this conversation because this thing has happened. I'm with the vet now and this is being proposed as an option. Even if you think it's the right thing to do for Bella, I don't know. I just feel like it's a fully informed way. That's what it is, right? Of just making sure that I've exhausted all the options and I'm listening to someone else's point of view. Maybe some people would hear me saying that and be like, well, you know what? That's really selfish of you. Because at the end of the day, if you felt that that's what's needed and that's what the vet feels is what's needed to the point where they're, you know, suggesting this is an option, your partner being on a work trip so far away can't really influence that. And all you're doing is spreading that sadness, which could wait until you've come home. My point is maybe that is the thought process that your wife had in her mind as to why she didn't tell you. And that would be a really wholesome intention, even if it maybe ended in an outcome that you were not happy with. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that this is coming out with the love and the consideration that I mean it to. Overall though, oh my goodness, you are absolutely not the drama. And I say not the drama instead of no drama here because I do still think that the wife is the drama for not telling you. Even if her intentions were good, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and knowing how close you were, I totally understand how even you just being there in the final moments, being able to feel like you did contribute in some way, that you were able to sing to her or say some reassuring words to little Bella during her final moments, things like that. It would have been good for you to be able to make that decision, for you both to have made that decision jointly. That's what it is. Like if you have a child, right? Because a dog is just a little fur child, you wouldn't expect one parent to make such a big decision like this. You co-parent, and co-parenting means talking, and co-parenting means exposing the other person to horrible things that might be happening because it's the right thing to do, because they are a co-parent. That's where my head falls at with giving you the not the drama badge as opposed to the no drama here badge. Points of advice though, because as we know, in certain situations, especially like this, the badge isn't really that important, right? It's what happens out of it. I definitely think you need to have another chat with the vet again. If you're saying that you're not sure, that little seed of doubt, that little niggle is going to grow, and it might be growing in a way that's really unfair to your relationship, and not listening to that seed might be a move that's not fair to you, especially if you think that some negative and bad intention things were happening, and especially if they were actually happening. And again, not saying that is what was happening, but what I am saying is you have the right to be fully informed, and even a vet in that situation should be able to give you enough information for you to be like, okay, no, I don't need to be concerned that my wife was being too overdramatic. You should be able to ask your vet, hey, there was a reason that you suggested this, right? Like, did you suggest it or did my wife suggest it? I need to know in order for me to have closure of the situation and to understand what went down and why I wasn't told. Maybe not the why I wasn't told, but the what went down bit. That's definitely something that is within the vet's nature to be able to help you answer. And truly, I do believe that if this was necessary, and I'm really hoping that this was necessary for Bella's sake, then having that information and feeling really secure and know this is something that had to happen will help you feel a hell of a lot better than how you are feeling now. And if that very dark, small probability of this being something that wasn't required is something that is a reality, then you will be able to act accordingly. Whew, all right. Should we see what other people have to say? Not the drama. I had a senior dog that was slowing down, and one day it was just bad. I took her to the vets and got meds and whatnot, and the very next day she was so bad she couldn't even hold herself up to sit and was barely breathing. She went from little old lady to knocking on death's door in 2 days, and it can get that bad that fast. I will second that it can. My issue is that your wife didn't communicate this with you. Why? My toxic positivity, the poppy within me is like, oh, there has to be a reason. She was doing this to protect you. She genuinely thought it was the right thing for you, maybe because of where you were, maybe because she didn't want you to be distracted by something so sad in a way that you couldn't meaningfully like change, and maybe because she didn't think that that was something you wanted to be subjected to in those final moments. At the same time, I don't know, like, you've been together this long as well. Being an adult means being able to make those decisions for yourself, and being in a relationship for that long and co-parenting means surely in some way knowing, right? Having that hunch, having that feeling, knowing that person enough to know that they probably want to be informed or not. Ooh, this happened to my sweet pup last month. She was a senior, fine, happy, and then suddenly sick. It can happen suddenly and quickly. However, I do agree with this poster. Why didn't your wife call you instead of waiting until you were home? Something doesn't pass the sniff test here. I truly hope that it's nothing on your wife's part. And I feel like that gut feeling that you have, OP, will probably be able to gauge this a lot, because what we are seeing in black and white text on a screen, you are feeling with emotions and an entire history of your relationship. And that means your relationship with your wife, that means your wife's relationship with Bella, and that means your relationship with Bella. Not the drama, and I'm sorry for your loss. She should have called you, not unilaterally decided. Not the drama, my husband would absolutely leave me if I did that to him. What your wife did is inexcusable. I can absolutely see why some people would see it that way. I can also see why some people would truly understand why the wife did what the wife did. But you know what's gonna make that comprehensible, even on the most basic level? Communication, babe. Communication. You have to have that honest chat. Whew, that was a heavy one. Drama. Alright, this final submission is from a peach themselves, cousin advisor. Thank you, sweet. Other peaches watching this, if you want to head over to the 1-800-DRAMA subreddit, that's r/1-800-DRAMA, you can do so to give a cousin advisor some advice yourself. Oh, I've just noticed that. Cousin advisor asking for advice. How very meta. Hey, Shaaba, and fellow peaches. I'm an 18-year-old teen mum of an adorable little girl who's 4. Hey, cousin advisor. I got pregnant at 13, which is not how I thought my life would have been going at all. It was a very difficult pregnancy, and there were some complications, but overall things were fine. Of course, with a pregnancy that young, there are a ton of judgmental people. The worst of all were my family members. My parents were pretty supportive after the initial shock of things, but I wasn't so lucky with other family members. I'm so glad you had supportive parents though to get you through what must have been such a turbulent period of like really accelerated growth. And obviously I'm talking about internal, mental, developmental growth, not just your beautiful little baby girl. My grandma and aunt were constantly talking behind my back. My sister was so rude to me, and my extended family basically cut me off. And this put a massive chip on my shoulder and empowered me to do everything the same, just with a kid. Oh, as in you reacted in a similar way, I'm assuming is what you're saying. So in the way that they were rude to you, you were rude to them. If they cut you off, you also didn't try to reach out to them. Makes sense. Recently, says OP, and this is looking a little bit different because there was a slight formatting issue, just so you know, this isn't a faked post or anything. Recently, I got accepted into a few prestigious universities with early action. Congratulations, my sweet. Typically more competitive, which I'm very proud of myself for accomplishing, as you should be. And I have to say, that takes balls to not only be such a young mama, but to be a young mama and be like, no, I'm now going to do this thing to invest in myself whilst also being a mama. That's a lot to juggle, and I'm proud of you. So to celebrate, over my birthday weekend, my parents drove me to South Carolina for a party with my friends and family. My daughter stayed with her father during this trip, and whilst we were there, we also saw my cousins, an aunt, and her husband. I'm assuming some of these people are maybe people you don't typically speak with. Is that where this is going? My favourite cousin, a 15-year-old girl, how old are you now? 18. Okay, sure. And I spent some time together at her house and at the house that my parents were renting for the trip. We were chatting, and naturally the conversation flows to my daughter and life as a teen mum. She asks me a couple of questions, and it's just a laid-back conversation. Eventually she asks me if being a teen mum is that difficult. I didn't want to lie or over-exaggerate, and I'm only speaking from my own experiences, and it has not been that bad for me, says OP. I told her that it's not easy, but I can make it work. And honestly, that sounds really reasonable. It makes sense, especially if you've got a gorgeous little squish who is clearly going to mean the world to you. Why would you want to sort of like settle on things like the hardships and the lost family members when you can focus on all the beauty that you've gained from a situation that you might not have expected, but happened either way? My parents are pretty helpful as well as her father, so it's not overwhelming. So it's great as well that you have a support network. It's really useful that you told her that too, because it sounds like you've approached the situation with the nuance that it required whilst also leaving it kind of top level, you know? That's a hard balance to strike, but from what I'm getting from this is I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I can only talk for myself. It's been alright. I also have to acknowledge that I have had a lot of support. Fair. Anyway, says OP, I dropped her back at her house from our rental place, and I thought that everything was fine, and honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that conversation. We go back home, and around a week or two later, my aunt is calling and yelling at me and cussing me out because she's found out about this conversation, I assume. I literally had no idea what she was going on about at first. Wow, that's how much this conversation was like not a thing to you. It's just one of the things that you spoke about, which I think shows that something has gone wrong with someone else at that point. If you're like, whoa, this has come as quite the shock. Not always, because sometimes you might just be totally unaware, but typically. Anyway, let's continue with OP. I literally had no idea what she was on about at first. Apparently my cousin is now pregnant, and I am being blamed for encouraging it. I'm sorry, says OP, but I just don't see how this is at all my fault. That visit was the first time that I saw her in over a year. I didn't tell her to rush out and get preggo. However, my mum is pissed, and she says that I basically gave her the green light. And so am I the drama for encouraging my cousin's pregnancy. Wow, that is a lot. That is a lot that you are being like burdened to take accountability of. Absolutely, you are not the drama. 1,000,000% you are not the drama. Sorry, my head is having to confirm something first, and this is where I wish I had Jamie, because my math is not that great. My ability to process numbers and dates is not that great. However, 2 weeks. So you're telling me that you had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Can I just confirm that? Around a week or two later, she's calling you. A week or two. So in that time, your cousin has supposedly heard what you said, decided in a way that leaves no accountability on her and puts all accountability on you, that she would therefore like to be a teen mum, has gone forward, had that encounter, found out that she's pregnant, and then gone and told her family too. It just sounds a little bit implausible. Do you know what I mean? I feel like what's probably happened is that that your cousin, and I'm not saying this is definitely the case, it sounds like maybe, I'm just saying it's a possibility, it sounds like maybe your cousin was already pregnant and was asking you those questions without telling you necessarily entirely what was going on, to try and gauge her situation to see if this is something that she was ready for, right? Am I the only person getting that vibe that there is a real strong likelihood that cousin was already pregnant at the time? But honestly, regardless of whether it happened before or after, it would be way too early, I think, to be able to tell, especially from like a natural pregnancy. I guess it could have happened, but it certainly feels more likely that it had already happened. That's my point. That wasn't my point. I lost my bean. My point was, even if it did happen afterwards, it would be far too early really to be able to tell your family in such a way. 1 to 2 weeks is really, really early. Really early. And in none of these situations did you hold her hand and guide her and make her go through with any kind of context in which she is growing a baby. That is not at all what happened. And you know, if she hadn't heard about it from you or seen it happen from you, this would have happened, or she would have heard about it from other places. OP, you were sharing your experience in such a neutral way. You did it in such a nuanced way, and what I think was such a mature way. You were literally answering questions that you were directly asked. And I will also say that even if you had not had that direct conversation, the fact is you're still a teen mum. You still went through that experience, and therefore your cousin, if they're concerned about being influenced, would have surely been influenced simply by the fact that you and your journey exists. Not the words that came out of your mouth 1 to 2 weeks ago, but the little being that came out of your body 4 years ago. I'm not trying to trivialize this. I just think it's so ludicrous that your family is saying this. It's not ludicrous though, is it? We know exactly where this is coming from, and it is coming from deflected anger. They're looking at a situation and they're like, wow, this is not what we expected. Who can we blame? Because the blame game is one of the easiest games to play. But babe, this is not your fault. You are absolutely not the drama. And I honestly cannot see a world in which you doing what you did, one, encouraged it, but also did anything but provide retrospective support to a situation that sounds like it already kind of was in motion. That is what my gut is telling me from reading this post. And I'm so sorry if I'm overstepping. It is just genuinely how I feel the situation must have gone down from seeing this like objective report of it. It can be really hard though to go through these situations. I know it's an entirely sort of like different ball game, but I had similar things with LGBTness, identity, sexuality, and Jamie's also had similar things with transness. Other people being like, oh, you influenced my child to be this way. If it wasn't for you, my daughter wouldn't be gay. And I'm like, wow. Wow. The level of delusion that you are having, the way that you are bending these shapes to create the word delusion is just so extreme. Unfortunately, there will always be people in the world that are going to be so afraid of the stigma that they do act out, and I can only hope and manifest that your cousin has the same wonderful support network, whatever she decides to do, that you seem to have had. And I don't know why, but I'm feeling compelled to let you know, maybe because I've just drawn that parallel, especially with Jamie's situation, that support network doesn't have to include you if it's too difficult for you to be in. It might sound like really left field as a thing to say, but for anybody who might need to hear it, it is too common a situation, right, in which people will blame you for being, what's the word? It's not quite a pioneer, but one of the first people to go through something tricky and being like, God, if it wasn't for you being a bad example, these other people wouldn't be the way that they are currently being. 1, it's entirely false. 2, the only reason you're feeling that is not because they are scared of the thing, but they are, as you very rightly pointed out, scared of the stigma attached to the thing, and they've seen what you've gone through and what you've experienced, and they're scared that that other person is going to experience that too. That's a really big burden to have on your shoulders, especially as you are continuing to go through your own journey. And so if no one else is telling you this, let me be the person to tell you this, Peach watching this video, that you don't need to put yourself in that position, especially if you feel that you on your chapter, 4, 5, 20, 100, however far down your chapter may be, you don't feel ready to confront and relive those chapter 1s, 2s and 3s moments. It can be a nice thing to do, to be there as a source of support. It can be a wonderfully relatable thing to do that might not only help the other person who's newly going through this, but also potentially healing some parts of yourself and your retrospective journey by sort of being able to secondhand experience that again. But it can also bring through a lot of freaking trauma and a lot of feelings of sort of like eyes and scrutiny that you didn't sign up for and that you have no obligation to take. And so if protecting your mental health means stepping aside and being like, hey, I want to make it really clear, new person going through this journey, that I support you and I don't have a problem with what you are doing, but I cannot be the one one that you lean on so heavily throughout this time because of the secondary ripple impacts that this is having on me because of other people's perception, that is an okay thing for you to say, and you need to be able to put yourself first. Whew. All right, with that heaviness out of the way, should we see what other people have to say? Not the drama. I have a feeling that your poor cousin might have already known that she's pregnant. I'm so glad I wasn't the only one who thought that. Wow. I was looking for support. If she already knew about your experience as a very young mum, I imagine she was looking to a family member that she knew might have some advice and could potentially be a friendly ear. And someone else has said 100% this, guaranteed she was already pregnant and just trying to make an informed decision on whether to announce. Not the drama. I'm no expert, but isn't it pretty unlikely that she could have conceived, had an embryo implant, and be able to find out in only 2 weeks? I don't think it's like impossible, but I do think that if this is going through a natural procedure, this is quite a quick timeline. Not to find out necessarily, but to find out and be in a position to share. And if it was, wow, that was quite a coincidence of the conversation that you were having. But that's not to say that we blame cousin here at all for saying what she's saying, for feeling how she's feeling, and for maybe even bringing up that conversation that you would have had very innocently as part of her announcing that she's now going through a similar journey. Absolutely not the drama. You had no way of encouraging her to get pregnant. Just because you're a teen mum doesn't mean that you gave her the green light. Absolutely. Imagine people being able to put accountability like that on TV documentaries where you, without malicious influence, are sharing just the story and perspective of someone else, and then all of a sudden have to take on the burden of what anybody else who hears that story might do. The world would be total chaos. Not the drama. Your adult family members are massively dramas. I was like, D's? Forgetting that this comment's on this podcast subreddit, so of course that D stands for drama. What else would it stand for? Dirty. They are the ones responsible for keeping their teenage kids safe and be supportive and comforting when they find out that they weren't. Peaches, let me know your thoughts. More importantly, if you want to pop onto the subreddit and help Cousin Advisor out, you can let them know your thoughts directly to give them even further support. All I know, sweet, is that you've gone through tricky family things before, and none of that changes the value of you as a being or the decision that you made to grow your wonderful little kid. That's awesome. And just like you had the autonomy to make that decision, you have the autonomy to decide how to move forward still. If you need to not have this family in your life, then you can do that. If you want to support this cousin, then you can do that. And it may not be easy for both you or the cousin, but what you need to do is focus on your journey, let your cousin focus on hers. And I really do hate this phrase, I can't believe I'm about to use it, but sometimes time in this situation is a wonderful tool to provide perspective. Letting things simmer down, letting people accept the realities of the situation that they are in, allowing people to understand all of the options, and let your cousin lead. What she wants to do is the only way to be there for your cousin, for all of these people to be there for your cousin. And I wish you all the best with it, my love. Gorgeous Peaches. If you're watching this on YouTube, do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to see more. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember that you can rate every single episode as well as the show overall, and any of these bits of engagement across YouTube or podcast platforms super duper helps your favorite creators out. The link to the subreddit is down below if you want to take a look or become a little member to go fishing there, along with a reminder to stream weird and also to check out Surfshark if that is something that interests you. For now, I will love you and leave you. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.